PM, PST starting, which is 12:30 bans.
Oh my god.
But what do you mean? Oh my god! That's why it's been telling you guys. What do you mean? What the hell? What do you mean? Oh my god!
No, he said start first game at 12, second at 1.
Well, earlier Jeremy.
No, it's 1 and 2.
Okay.
But Ryan,
earlier Jeremy
on
put
the
up
other hand,
with
is
Russell
retarded
Brand
and
too.
they
It's fair to say
fucked it
looks
up
slightly
on their announcement.
Russell Brand, you
post,
say right at the start of this
that we are
book,
playing at
I was
12
born to be
and
famous,
2.
and then you say that it took some decades for the rest of the world to realise that. Why did you want to be famous?
I think that I grew up in a rather desolate and barren cultural environment, industrial Essex, or perhaps post-industrial Essex. And I think amidst that, beneath that heavy, hanging, low grey sky, the idea of something glistening yet visceral were very appealing to me. Fame is seemingly accessible even when you live in areas where it's miles and miles away from you.
Yeah, but I mean, you take something. Lewis Hamilton is famous for driving cars very fast.
Absolutely.
Richard Dawkins is famous as a scientist and an atheist. They're famous for something.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, you don't say you want to be famous for anything.
Well, not on the first page of my book. See, I've always thought that that rather unappealing trait of craving fame for fame's sake was balanced by my willingness and deep affection for my art. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I worked at stand-up comedy for many, many years for nothing, above pubs for 50 quid, years and years, for not even for that much money. I have a deep artistic attachment to what I do. But the craving for fame, I don't know if I want to take personal responsibility for that, because I did not create a culture that deifies the famous.
No, you're part of a culture that, and your desire to be a celebrity, to be famous, is not at all unusual.
No.
I'm interested, though, in why you think it's taken such a deep root among us.
I suppose that it's an idea that deeply permeates because it's omnipresent. It's everywhere you go. You are perhaps this country's foremost serious journalist that's identifiable and recognisable, and yet here you are interviewing me about the nature of celebrity. I'm sure you've on your show seen important topics subjugated for frivolous celebrity-based items, and I'm sure that must be very frustrating for you.
There'll be viewers who'll say that's exactly what's happening with this interview.
Precisely that. Yes, I would imagine that to a degree they're right.
Famous people appear to have significance,
yes.
And previously it was religion that gave people that sense they had a significance.
Of course, people and I think that significance can shift.
Yeah.
Diana was at different points in her trajectory of fame presented as the virgin, presented as the whore, presented as a martyr. So where relevant, fame can transmogrify and alter to represent what's culturally necessary at that time to suit the narrative. People enjoy narratives, and I suppose that's why politics has become inundated with these narrative ideas. Oh, this brother begats that brother, Cain versus Abel, it's David versus Ed, because people no longer want to grapple with the death of the grand ideas. No one cares about religion anymore, no one cares about communism anymore, because we've been fed this grey sludge of celebrity, glittered up and packaged and lacquered and sent directly into our brains via the media that both you and I work for in different degrees.
What happens to you when it arrives?
What happens is you have the initial thrill of achievement, oh my word, the same as if you'd acquired a pair of shoes that you'd long craved, and then you realise that the shoes are too tight, they ain't that comfortable, I want another pair of shoes, walking around in these things ain't the same as I thought it would be, and you realise that you need nutrition from a higher source, something more valuable. Celebrity in and of itself is utterly, utterly vacuous, it's tiresome. And particularly now, when coupled with something, I was like, having, like, sort of, had the mundane yet marvellous experience of falling in love with somebody, and now having a sort of private life and something I want to protect, and yet the fame continues to cast its shadow. It's a pain in the arse.
Does privacy mean anything to you anymore?
Yes, it means a great deal to me, mostly as a commodity that's very hard to
Your
achieve.
book is about the most intimate human things. It's about love, yes, but it's also a great deal about shagging and drinking and drugs and the rest of it. These are quite personal things, and I wonder if you've put it all out there and rather regret it.
Don't you think, though, Jeremy, that art to some degree, if I may use that rather grandiose little word, is about the personal, and what other conduit for experience have I got other than the personal? And to tell you the truth, that I maintain the intimate because there are countless feelings, thoughts and fears that aren't shared in those pages.
Do you worry that it's done something to you?
when I first became famous, Jonathan Ross said to me, "How are you coping with this?" And I sort of went, "Yeah," and I must have looked all bruised and shattered like a man at the foothills of a mountain staring up at the summit. And I said, "It's a bit scary, isn't it?" He goes, "Yeah, you lose something and you never get it back." And the thing to which he refers is, of course, that privacy, that sense of yourself, that ability to identify yourself with intimate things, to define your own narrative. Now I've become, there's an extracted icon of me that's used to splashed across newspapers and used to represent what is convenient, again, for these narrative ideas. So it's a huge compromise. It's not what you think it's going to be. If you are pursuing it for its own end, then that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and unfulfilling. But if you have a deep love of singing or dancing or basket weaving, then you should pursue that. But if you're pursuing it because of you think that there might be some supplementary celebrity experience, then you are misinformed and you're due to experience great dissatisfaction.
But there's clearly a danger you start to believe the public's idea of you.
Yes, you could believe that, but fortunately I'm privileged in that I have real friends and real people around me, and we're all equally aware of how preposterous it is and how the way that these images and ideas are manipulated to maintain a cultural narrative to keep people spellbound and stupid, as opposed to elucidate on real people who actually cares about what I really am or what I really think or what I really feel. What's much more convenient is the idea of the cad, the bounder, the dandy, making these minor transgressions in the media.
The most notorious incident is the message left on Andrew Sachs's answering machine. I'm just wondering how you work out in your mind that it's okay to leave a message on a very old man's answering machine talking about having sex with his granddaughter, but it's not acceptable for a paparazzo to try to shove his camera lens up your fiancée's skirt.
Allow me to explain.
Please.
Because there wasn't a predisposed idea to call up Andrew Sachs. We were calling Andrew Sachs up because he was supposed to be on the show. He was booked as a guest. Then he didn't answer his phone. Then someone said, "Do you want to leave an answer phone message?" As he's not answering. This is the kind of wacky, flung-together lo-fi show. The listeners enjoy that, listening to their casual, disposable podcasts in this casual, disposable age. Why not leave a humorous message for Andrew Sachs? So I was leaving a message that alluded to the idea that the listeners already had. The listeners already had the knowledge. Oh, Russell slept with Andrew Sachs's granddaughter. So I alluded to that idea in a charming, whimsical, light-hearted way, because of course in my mind I wasn't leaving a message on the answer phone of an elderly man. I didn't have that idea. I thought it was Manuel from 40 Towers holding a silver platter. Okay? That's what I had in my mind, because that's what fame presented me with. So I was just leaving that message and going, "Oh, you know, I've always respected you, and as a comedian I love 40 Towers, I respect your progeny and your descendants." That was where the illusion would have ended. And then Jonathan at that moment shouted the famous now infamous sentence, and and then the rest of the broadcast became about calling back that answer phone to apologise for it, recognising it was wrong. There was never a decision to do it. It wasn't like a contrived joke, a prank, a bit of situationism. It was a silly, daft mistake, and I'm truly, truly sorry for being rude to Andrew Sachs. That was very, very impolite and very, very bad manners, but it wasn't like a deliberate act. It was accidental. Now, how that differs, Jeremy, from a paparazzi sticking a lens up my girlfriend's skirt is he deliberately makes a choice to stick a lens up my girlfriend's skirt to take photographs of her sex organs. A deliberate choice. He didn't accidentally, bunglingly, foolishly, while caught up in the whimsy of creation in a lo-fi or radio show, put a lens there. You know, I would never deliberately upset Andrew Sachs or anybody. It's against my ethos, it's against everything I believe in. Similarly, I wouldn't deliberately take a photograph of up someone's skirt. It's preposterous and utterly distinct to the two incidents in a relationship.
You say the whole incident was overblown.
Yes, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would. I would absolutely agree with you personally, yes. But if it was overblown, why do you need to apologise for it?
I apologise not for the incident itself, I apologise for leaving an impolite message. The subsequent hyperbole, lunacy and inflated media interest for me is just a phenomena, just an abstract phenomena. Very interesting to me that such minutiae can be conveniently inflated to destroy the BBC by the privately owned media. It was interesting. It was interesting.
I know Jonathan Ross, your friend, left the BBC.
Yes.
Was he right to do that?
It was right for him to do that, and I suppose perhaps he felt his options were limited due to, again, the narrative. They didn't want him to be earning that money. They don't like that idea at the Daily Mail.
You see one of these things. This is the form now that has to be filled in. This is a consequence of what you did. This is the form.
This is it.
That has to be filled in by everyone.
Not Michael Howard, Jeremy, but
but it's just interesting. You've got to sign.
This didn't exist before me, but now it exists.
Now it exists, and you have to.
This is my legacy. Bureaucracy.
Precisely.
My legacy is
You have to
bureaucracy.
sign a
I
form
consider myself so
saying,
radical.
you know, then are there any references to sex? Are there any references to politics?
Well, there are.
Well, sure.
Left with several references to sex and politics.
You have to sign this, and the argument is that what's happened as a consequence is that kind of creativity has just been stifled.
Why don't you give this to Paul Davis? Because this isn't my responsibility.
No,
I called an elderly.
I'm
If there's like any more problems because of answer phone messages being left, I'll over to Russell in the studio. I'll apologise on your behalf. But this is because of the Daily Mail. This is because of Rupert Murdoch. This is because people don't want to pay licence fee anymore. This is because
it's a consequence
newspaper
of your.
sales are falling.
It's a consequence of your
It would have
voicemail
happened.
message.
No. I think that narrative is occurring, and they were looking for that incident. The Daily Mail. How many times have the Daily Mail found other reasons to attack the BBC citizen? Frankie Boyle said a thing. No one at the Daily Mail legitimately went, "What? Russell Brand did what?" You actually left a message on Andrew. It's completely disingenuous. It's a complete confection and utter fabrication for the convenient purpose of destroying an organisation for which you work. I'm sorry that my actions led to facilitated that in some way, but I may just as well have tipped paint on Paul Dacre's lawn and caused a controversy.
Regardless of the causality of the thing, that is the consequence.
Yes.
Do you think that, I mean, do you notice that it's become sort of cabin, crib, confined, uncreative generally?
Well, I don't watch an
Because
awful
that's
lot
the
of
accusation
television.
from Stephen Fry, of course.
Yes, well, I think that's unfortunate if that is true. I don't watch enough television to make an accurate appraisal, but I can see that this would not be helpful to creativity in any way, unless you use the back of it to make notes on the jokes, which is what I would do with it.
I've never interviewed anyone who's quite as animated when speaking as you are. Do you ever worry you're going to burn out?
Well, I'm going to die, so yes.
We're all going to die.
Well, yes, I do worry.
Yeah,
The inevitability
I'm just
of
thinking of
death,
this Oliver Stone remark that you're burning with a very, very high flame, and will you be able to keep it up?
I don't think that's something I can necessarily control. I mean, if I speak a little more meekly and balance this on my lap, I still think the spectre of death will loom.
Yeah.
The icy hand will still land upon my shoulder, perhaps, a couple of hours later. But, I don't want to get all Kerouac about it, but it's quite good to blaze about.
But do you think that you can continue at this level?
I hope not, because I'm
Freneticism.
utterly bored of it. I want
Are
to
you?
ascend.
What-
Yeah, I don't want to be here for much longer. I mean, not talk to you. You're lovely and fantastic. It's a thrill to talk to you, but I don't want to dwell here with such trivial things for very much longer.
You seek death? No, you don't.
Not death, but between now and death, it would be ever so nice, I think, if I were able to achieve something that was truly valuable, some evocation of beauty, togetherness, the exposure of the illusion of separation, and some connection between people. Perhaps use this energy for something better than something
more
arts-phone
worthwhile.
messages. One would hope. That's my deepest wish.
Do you have any intimation of what it might be?
Yes. We're making this documentary currently on the subject of fame and consumerism and the way that we're sold these ideas and these narratives and the way they keep us dumb and the way that I myself was seduced by it growing up in Essex and thought, oh yes, I want to be famous, and now I am famous, and what does it mean? Ashes in my mouth. So I want to communicate this idea to people that are aspiring to it, culturally specifically wanting to become famous, but